On this episode of the show, I have with me Jarah Euston. She is co-founder and CEO at WorkWhile, and we're going to be talking about a worker-first mission. We're going to dive into talking about what that means. And Jarah mentioned she worked these jobs growing up, and we're going to talk about how she's building for people that are working in the front line that are a little bit more underserved. And we're going to talk about how this group of people and the product she's developing is going against the grain in terms of what else is being developed out there on the market. And it's doing good. It's putting money back in the pocket of employees that, deserve it and need it. So I'm super excited about this one. Jarah, thank you for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Before we dive in, can you tell us all what WorkWhile does?
Absolutely. WorkWhile is a labor marketplace. So we connect frontline workers with shifts that fit their skill, schedule, and location. There are about 80 million Americans who work these types of frontline hourly jobs. And if you've never worked an hourly job, you might not have the context that you could have a job but not get any hours in a week, meaning you get a $0 paycheck. And as you might imagine, that presents a lot of problems. So WorkWhile is a technology company that is building tech to help serve frontline workers and make sure that they can earn as much money as they want to or need to.
Awesome. So I guess, to start off, you mentioned, these are jobs you've held. So you know the bit of the audience, you know what it feels like working in some of these jobs. Maybe you could just walk us through that for you.
Yeah, my first job ever when I was 16 in high school was as a retail associate at Party City. Rest in peace, Party City. It is no longer with us, but it was a big box party supply superstore. And my job was to be at the cash register, ring up all the party favors, blow up helium balloons. And then the worst task at Party City was the go backs, which is putting all of the little tchotchkes mom decided not to actually buy and left at the cash register back in the aisles on the pegboard. And so you'd have to find, where are the Superman napkins? Where did those go back? And thankfully, my career trajectory was not in frontline retail, but I remember my coworkers at that first job were they were grown-ups. They were in their 40s, 50s, raising their families, trying to live their lives with these types of jobs. Also worked in fast food. I was like an office filing clerk. I did the whole gamut of hourly jobs. And I'm originally from Central California in Fresno. And in Fresno County, it's the largest agricultural producing county in the United States. If you eat an almond, it's probably been grown in Fresno County. Raisin, definitely from Fresno County. And if you're not in ag and you're not in the services, like, a teacher, police officer, doctor, lawyer, you probably work an hourly job. And so that was really my frame of reference growing up. It's totally normal. The most likely thing for you to do as an adult would be to work at a big box or a processing plant. And so having that frame of reference, but then spending my career in big tech, I think gives me a really unique perspective. Not a whole lot of tech company founders spent time working hourly. And if you're a founder, you build what you know. You're usually solving your own problem. Mm-hmm. And while, working hourly wasn't my problem anymore, it really shapes you. And, for kids, even today, I think working an hourly job early on in your career just teaches you so much. Absolutely. About customer service, human nature, how we bring our baggage to work and how you can de-escalate situations and, risk mitigate. And so it was really transformative for me. And as I was thinking about starting this company or doing another startup, I really wanted to do something that was in my wheelhouse of building product, but in service to the people who I felt like weren't really getting any products built for them, the frontline worker.
And just a side note, I can't count anymore how many times in a given month I go, where's another Party City? Boy, did we really miss how vital it was. And somebody out there with bags of money, start a more efficient Party City, you will kill. There's no place for balloons or supplies. Anyways, and just remember,
where will you get your balloons inflated? Where?
My daughter's birthday came up, and my wife was like, "I need neon balloons." I go, "Okay, that's great. I can order them from Amazon." She goes, "Well, that's not what I want. I need the balloons blown up." So you start calling around for balloons being blown up, and we were getting outrageous quotes. I mean, $200 to blow up like 20 balloons. I'm like, where are they getting this helium from? The balloons themselves cost $7, like for a package of 20. And then finally, she just found the best price we could. But it was, I remember you go to Party City, you buy the balloons plus helium. I mean, you're out the door, with this $70, $80, and you're like, okay, that's not too bad. Sorry, I digress. But absolutely, I think it's interesting because, it may be even a bigger topic down the road, and it'd be interesting to have somebody talk about it, is when you look at these big box stores that are not succeeding and you look at the dynamics of the economics, it's sometimes really challenging, especially when you look at the contract side where people do take shifts. They take, some form of, labor at a certain cost, and that incremental cost and the overhead's really expensive. And when you look at that, and we look at what we're hearing in the marketplace about, robots are starting to do this, do that, and the other, you then start thinking, what's going to happen to the frontline employee? Are they just going to go away? Are they being replaced? Are they going to be working with robots? I mean, we all have this image of robots doing everything, but I guess when you start thinking about the frontline worker, and I'm sure you're reading all these headlines in the news, do we think that's going to happen? Is it a long tail, short tail? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is to start your own helium service.
I'm telling you, I've thought about it 13 ways from Sunday. I have no organizational skills to get that off the ground, and I need somebody to reach out and say they can do it. We'll fund it.
I think that's the answer. Look, I mean, obviously services, right? We're coming into services. Our largest investor is Khosla Ventures, right? Vinod Khosla who was a first check-in, led our entire seed round. And he's got a TED Talk that you can find on the internet. And his predictions for the future, although he very astutely doesn't give a hard and fast time deadline for how many years, but believes that, we're going to have infinite productivity, which means that labor hours are going to zero, because productivity is just, GDP divided by labor hours. And he believes that all jobs are going to be automated either by, humanoid robots or AI. And while I could imagine as a techno optimist, this could be the future, I think it's going to be long past the time when I'm gone. And candidly, I think my job as, strategist, capital allocator is going to be replaced by AI well before the warehouse associates or line cooks that are picking up shifts on the WorkWhile platform will be. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But I do think it's concerning, right? Like, I don't know if you saw the recent study out of the Stanford Digital Economy Lab that says that entry level, white collar jobs are down, especially software engineering entry level jobs are down like 13% for kids coming out of college, 22 to 25 years old. That's real. The robots cannot pick and pack as fast as humans yet. And so I do think we're in this transitional window. There's going to be increasing automation everywhere. But like I said, it's going to be a lot longer before the 80 million frontline workers get replaced than some of these office stiffs. Like, I'm sorry, you and me, we're the ones who are going to fall victim to this before the manual labor, the frontline work that is out there. And so while it's something we worry about, I'm more concerned with helping people put food on the table tomorrow or next week. And the advancements in AI and LLMs has just been huge in service to the ability for people to work more flexibly and in a more fractional capacity so that they can actually, go back to school or take care of their family or do whatever they need to do while they continue to work. And I think that the benefits accruing to the front line are going to be, in the short to medium term, actually very positive and significant, because it's just going to be a more efficient labor marketplace. Like, if you think about it, like even 5 years ago, what was the technology available to find, 300 warehouse workers who could work tomorrow in a distribution center? It was humans picking up the phone. And maybe there was some SMS, and that was a big improvement. But there was no AI recruiter. There was no automated voice to be able to find, screen, place people at scale. And all of that has unlocked the ability for people to find the right work way faster. And it's better for workers and it's better for businesses too. And so our whole philosophy around WorkWhile is to leverage the bleeding edge of AI and technology in service to the frontline, because we think there's so much inefficiency in this frontline work, from recruiting to scheduling. I mean, the natural solution to a scheduling problem is an algorithm. Your average big box manager is not equipped to build an algorithm to do that. And so we just think there's so much more opportunity for the frontline when this technology is applied in service to them.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is you're kind of, I think we talked about it, building against the grain, and because everyone's funding for human replacements in one way or another. I personally am a big believer that humans are the worst predictors of the future. So I actually go the opposite direction. I love the technology. I talk about it on the show every day. So AI and robotics. And I go, when's the last time this many humans are right about anything? When it's that obvious, there's somebody that is not seeing something, and that somebody is the middle of the bell curve, because it can't be that obvious, and the future actually is the obvious. It normally is not the obvious. And I'm very interested in products like yours, the mission behind it, because at some point, sure, maybe a robot and the cost for a robot will be cheap enough for stores to actually, just go into any big box. And Walmart's a great example. They're already in robotics. They take care of some of the robotic stuff. And some of the robotic stuff that is probably actually harmful for humans to do, moving is these forklifts. I mean, they've actually automated these warehouses, but going into the store and actually going, you know what, we're going to take these 200 employees we have at any shift, and we're going to replace them with robots. First of all, we need economies of scale to get those robots there. And we need to then have all the kinks worked around with a human and a robot working side by side. I mean, there's so many things. I'm looking at you going, you want to put more money in the pockets of people. That sounds great. This is something we could see the result of tomorrow. And when you think about that, and you're thinking about your mission and and again, I don't know how long until the robots come. That's a whole different situation. But when you think about your mission, when you first start thinking about this, and you start hearing the outside noise of the robots are coming, they're coming. You mentioned, we've heard about TED Talks on it. It doesn't seem like that's ever discouraged you, because I think founders sometimes really do need to get that tunnel vision and go, forget the noise. I believe in what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's just our perspective at WorkWhile is so different from the average tech worker who is only reading, tech press or X or Twitter, right? Because we're talking to the people on the ground every day. And, the dirty little secret is one of our first customers, and we have always worked with robotics companies. They still need people. They need people to move the bin for the robot. They need people to adjust the robot. So even the companies that are building the future of automation need humans. And they've been customers of WorkWhile since the beginning. And so, that gives me a lot of confidence. And when I go on site to see our customers and the variability in production facilities and what they're trying to accomplish, I'm extremely confident in our ability to continue to help workers find, a living wage, because there's so much need for them. We're so far off from that. And while it's fun to think about and people are building the future, I'm really focused on, the next 24 months are going to be huge for WorkWhile. We just announced today a new marketing campaign that we're launching called Unemployment is Dead. Like, we live in some crazy macro times. WorkWhile was founded about 5 years ago. And in our lifespan, there has been, once in a lifetime pandemic. There has been 2 Trump administrations. There have been tariffs, no tariffs, big shifts to our macro economy, and massive swings in the labor market. And now we're at a place where there's a lack of trust in the employment data we have. And today, WorkWhile actually released our metric to help the general public understand what is the state of labor, what is the state of work in the United States, called the American Labor Utilization Rate, abbreviated as ALUR or ALUR. And what this metric does is it's sharing with the world the data from our marketplace, which, it's not representative. It's just the data that we see. But we want to share because right now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is under attack. We don't have a good handle on what's actually happening in the economy. And what we see with our data is labor utilization is actually quite high. So what our metric does is it measured once you are a retained worker, you've worked a certain number of shifts on the platform, what's the likelihood that you're going to continue working? And this is really comparable to changes in employment, the continuous employment rate. And what we found, like today, it's at 97.5%. That means, for those people who have been retained and have been working, 97.5% of them are continuing to work today. And it's a real-time daily metric. And I think that if we flip the script on what does work, and I have air quotes, right, work and employment really mean, in this post-pandemic, post-COVID life, like, nobody wants to be told when and where they have to work. And that's just as true for frontline workers as it is for, white-collar software engineers. People are becoming increasingly fractional, increasingly flexible. And our, legacy agencies and systems don't have a great way of measuring that. And so we're hopeful that releasing this ALUR, this American Labor Utilization Rate metric, will help people contextualize what's really going on around us, right? Because you might find that while people don't have a traditional 9 to 5, they are working. They are being productive. They are putting food on the table. WorkWhile put over $100 million in workers' pockets. And that's not nothing, but we're not measuring it.
It's interesting. I mean, we are seeing, when we're talking about frontline workers, we're talking about people who work in big boxes, restaurants, all these other places where we typically don't think about the rest of society and the impact on them. It is a really difficult spot to be because, minimum wage is a factor. The amount of overhead that goes into their employment is a factor, and it is a struggle and it is a hard job. And I think when we think about it, you're trying to put more money back into their pockets by reducing some of the overhead, some of the costs that are inherent in finding this type of employment. I guess when you look at it from that perspective, right? Obviously we can only control what we can control. When you think about from that perspective, what are you seeing? What are WorkWhile? I mean, is there a number or is there a percentage of dollars that actually gets put back into the worker's pocket with a more efficient system?
Yeah, so we filled over 6.5 million labor hours, and we don't have a single recruiter working on sourcing, screening, or placing people. And so what we're able to do with the automation and the technology is make sure our customers are getting the best service at the most cost-effective rate. And so if you think of your total costs of staffing or labor, right, you have actually the earnings paid to the workers, right, who should get the bulk of it, but then you also have a lot of these overhead expenses. And so what we find, though, is that earnings on our platform are growing significantly higher than what the BLS is putting out, significantly higher than inflation. And we can't be 100% sure, but we believe a large part of that is because the cost to find the workers has decreased. And so while your total cost of labor can shrink, you can actually afford to pay workers more because you're compressing the surplus that the overhead is getting. And, that might mean challenges for some parts of an organization, right? Like if we can staff 6.5 million hours without a single recruiter, what does that mean, right? And I think what it means is that it's going to be redistributed to the folks working on the front line to increase those wages and attract better and better talent.
Absolutely. I guess when you're looking at your roadmap, and I guess, we kind of talked about, there's outside changes within industries at this level, right? And obviously, in the context of what we're talking about, you're trying to put money back into these employees, paychecks. Robots are potentially coming to take the jobs wholesale. In terms of like the middle ground where it's like at some point people need to change skills. Maybe that's the right focus is, we'll have to reskill people. We'll have to have people do things differently, work in different parts of the process, right? If there's a robot, maybe you're managing the robot, you're not actually doing the work. There definitely seems to be a gap from the fact that a lot of these jobs are available to where things might have to go. Is that something you think about on the platform? I mean, you have the audience, you have everyone there. Is it something you think about as we are talking about the future and the chance of all this stuff happening to actually help within that reskilling component?
Absolutely. So at WorkWhile, our mission is to really help workers earn a better living and live a better life. And we really think of that with 3 pillars, right? So the first is like access to money. There are 2 ways to get money. Well, I guess 3 ways, but the 2 ways we focus on are you can earn it or you could borrow it. I guess the third way is you could, steal it, but we're not going to be touching that one. So we want to help connect you with work opportunities so you can earn more, or have financial services that will allow you to smooth out your income or potentially borrow, right? The third pillar that we think about is access to upskilling. And to your point, we've got over 1 million workers on the platform, and a lot of them have amazing skills. We have a lot of, licensed electricians, tradespeople on the platform. How do we help them, number one, leverage those skills they already have? Or number two, if you don't already have these licenses or certifications, how do we help you get them in a way that works for you? Because a lot of times if you're working a frontline job, you don't have the luxury of taking some time off to go to community college, right? All of the training, the curriculum needs to be delivered to you where you are in a snackable, digestible way so that you can learn while you're continuing to earn. And so upskilling is a key component for us, and a core pillar of the whole platform. And then finally, the last piece is back to the earning or borrowing is financial services. So a key reason why people like working on WorkWhile is because we pay quickly. Most of the time, it's next day. We have our prepaid Visa debit card that allows people to get paid at clock out, which is huge, right? We are on a mission to eliminate payday loans. I'm on a mission to even eliminate earned wage access. The idea that you have to pay a little bit of money to get access to the money that you already worked for, I don't think that's right. And we think that there's a way to build financial services products that make it possible for workers to get access to their earnings whenever they want them without any additional fees, right? I already worked 8 hours for that money. Why do I have to pay another $5 to get access to my $150 paycheck? We don't think that's right. And so that's a third key pillar of what we're working on to help support hourly wage earners.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I think that as we talk about this more, and you just mentioned small nuances to people who are not within the space, right? Things that they would not be aware of. And somebody might be listening is going, I can't believe that these fees keep adding up. If you are making X by the time you go back and you have to pay for your living. And the mission is fantastic because obviously, trying to help employees or workers earn more, helps everyone. From your perspective, when it comes to, obviously, a lot of white collar professionals go to LinkedIn, you can find them easy. And you say, obviously, you mentioned there's no recruiter for the platform, and you are making the matches. How do the people actually find out about the platform? Because obviously it's not a platform that I would know otherwise, right? If I'm not in the space, but how is it that you guys connect with the people you need to connect with?
Yeah. So about 70% of our workers come organically through word of mouth, or they find us in the app stores because they type in work and we come up, right? And so there is really strong word of mouth, especially when we have, exciting or lucrative shifts. People tell their friends. We have entire families that work on WorkWhile. They're like, oh yeah, my cousin told me about this job, or I'm working this shift with my mom. And we welcome that because, as you know, good people know other good people. We also invest heavily in worker referrals. So if you refer another great worker, I'd much rather, pay you a finder's fee than run ads on Instagram or something like that. That's much more efficient for us. And so we find that workers are following the money. Follow the money, right? So as we grow and as we have more demand on our marketplace, the supply naturally comes because they're interested in that. And so that's been a key growth driver for us, is really that word of mouth. And I think the word of mouth has been positive because our core mission is to treat workers well. Our support team is full of people who were workers on the platform, and they wrote in a really eloquent message to support. And we're like, hey, we got to get them on the other side of the chat, because they've walked in our workers' shoes. We work shifts. We understand how the product works. We go visit our customers. We are there when 300 people are trying to clock in at once. We understand the operational complexity, and we understand that workers oftentimes are not treated with the respect that they deserve. And so we want WorkWhile to be the best place to work a frontline shift, because we're going to treat you the best. We're going to treat you with respect. We're going to pay you as quickly as possible. And we're going to do all that we can to support you.
I love it. I think it's a great mission. And obviously you're doing society good as well. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm sure if somebody hasn't really been involved in this type of work, they're going to have questions of the ins and outs, or maybe somebody out there who's listening to it that actually wants to join the platform. Is there good ways of, follow-up questions or learning more or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's welcome to pick up some shifts. So just download the app in the app store of your choosing, just WorkWhile, or just hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to message me, or you can find me on Twitter. I'm just Jarah K, and ping me there.
Okay. Jarah, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was so great to chat with you.
Absolutely. All right. That's it for this episode. Be back again, different guests, different topic. Until then, two things. One, I think, talking about mission-driven companies, obviously WorkWhile is definitely doing that, and talking about the frontline workers and how Jarah's seeing a improvement in their lives, and actually not worrying about what we're hearing out there of robotics and AI, really focusing on people that she can serve now. That's pretty amazing. And obviously, if you did start a Party City, clone, and you guys do that, please message both of us, because we apparently both want balloons. I kid. But I think this episode is fantastic, because you normally don't see something that actually serves good and then directly impacts this closely, this visibly. So share this episode with somebody else that might benefit from it. I'd really appreciate that. Also, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the show's going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.